Hey everybody, welcome back to BobkeTV. Well, it's Tuesday, time once again for the Broom Wagon and lots to go over. Tour of California, Giro d'Italia, Musette Musings, Tweet of the Week, the good and the bad and the ugly, all coming up on the Broom Wagon. Alright, let's start out with the good from the Tour of California. Julian Alaphilippe, second last year, returns to the Amgen Tour of California and comes up with a huge win, the biggest win in his career. He did that by dominating the proceedings on the toughest climb in the race, up to Gibraltar, mountaintop finish, and defending his leader's jersey against Rowan Dennis in the time trial. Did bleed a significant amount of time to Rowan Dennis, but Alaphilippe, such a great climb up Gibraltar, he was able to keep his leader's jersey with the help of his teammates throughout the entire week of the bike race. A great win, and the inevitable comparisons between Alaphilippe and the other great French cyclists has already begun. To the peril of the French sporting public. Anytime a French athlete wins a stage race or shows promise or is a good climber, they wonder, when will that rider win the Tour de France? And it's been a long time since Bernardino, 1985, 31 years, count them, France, 31 years, and it's not going to be Julian Alaphilippe. Sorry, let's just stop these rumors, let's just stop these expectations before they even get started. Not good enough against the clock to win the Tour de France. If it's all climbing, perhaps. If it's 0 miles against the clock, Julian Alaphilippe might have a chance. And there's a big difference between 3 weeks in a Grand Tour and a 1-week stage race. And let's not get ahead of ourselves with Julian Alaphilippe. A lot of solid climbers coming out of France. Romain Bardet, Thibaut Pinot, Julian Alaphilippe, great in the one-day classics. And if I'm his management, if I'm Julian Alaphilippe, I will try to win Liège-Bastogne-Liège, Flèche Wallonne, one of the big classics of the springtime from the Ardennes that he is one of the best in the world at. Second in Flèche, second in Liège, already in his career, and always up there in Amstel as well. So for the hilly, the Ardennes Classic, Julian Alaphilippe has a great future. Let's just keep our minds focus on what he's best at and keep our feet on the ground, especially if you're the French expectant public. I'll give you guys a name in France. If you want the next French winner, if there's some time trials in the Tour, Thibaut Pinot, riding great. So the FDJ climber and now time trialist. Golly, got a couple of time trial wins this year already. All right. Also the good from Julian Alaphilippe in the Tour of California, his bike handling. Check out this video. Peter Sagan is known for his bike handling, quite the acrobat, but I think Julian Alaphilippe could give him a run for his money in stages like that. So, or excuse me, in showing off like that. So, Julian Alaphilippe, great bike handling, tremendous climber, work on your skills against the clock, and maybe we'll see you on the podium in the Tour de France before too long. Okay, also the good. Peter Sagan, 2 stage wins. He gets the green jersey. He usually does that as points over. He's always there. And it's great to watch Peter Sagan race. Very aggressive. He's in the breakaways. Not just content to wait for the sprints. Goes in the breaks also when he gets a chance to win. Nowadays, he rarely loses. And in the rainbow stripes, it's been great to watch him have probably the best season of his career so far. Hasn't won a Tour de France stage in a couple of editions, so let's hope he gets one in this summer's edition. Maybe beat the best sprinters. Got the better of Christophe in the Tour of California. Got the better of Cavendish. If he can get the better of Greipel and Kittel as well, he could win a sprint stage. In the breakaway, it's always going to be tough for Sagan because nobody wants to cooperate with him all the way to the line. So he has to overpower the entire field or beat the best sprinters. And that is a very tall order, but he's on the type of form that might see him do that later on this summer in the Tour. Also the good, Cavendish! Cav back on top of the sprint game Wins the last stage in Sacramento with a blistering acceleration to eclipse Kristoff and Sagan in the sprint. Cav didn't have a great lead out, but was able to come from a ways back and dominate that sprint. If he has those kind of legs in the Tour de France, he's going to be competitive against Kittel and Greipel and Kristoff and Sagan. Just when you count him out, he punishes you every time. So I'm just going to pick Cav for the win the rest of the summer. Also, the good from the United States, if you're looking for a future Tour de France star, look no further than Neilson Powless. This kid can really race a bike. Attacking, not content to follow the best climbers in the business on Gibraltar Road, attacking them. Great attack, finishes 9th, lost a few places on the hectic run-in to the finish in Sacramento, but kept his white jersey as best young rider, 9th overall, was sitting 5th, and a little bit more experience, just 19 years of age. He will never lose time in a flat finishing circuit like that again, but there is a star of the future on the Action Hagens Berman squad, Neilson Powless. The good also in the women's race, Megan Guarnier clobbered a great international field, the best women in the world, just dominated the proceedings, won the hardest stage, and then just kept the jersey for the rest of the race. Great riding by Megan, maybe the best bike racer in the women's field in the world today. Took over the World Cup lead, so leading that worldwide competition, took that lead away from her teammate, Lizzie Armistead, and those two women are racing the best in the world, so watch for Megan Guarnier to be a real force and a potential gold medalist and podium, most certainly, in the Olympic Games in Rio a little bit later this summer. The bad from the Tour of California. The transfers. Who set these stages up? I mean, California is a big state, but you got to give the riders a break when it's time for them to recuperate. They race flat out all day, every day, and the further they have to drive after and before each stage, you cut into their chance to recuperate. You're already finishing very late in the afternoon, then to get everybody into the buses and transfer for hours to the next hotel is a real burden on the recuperation of the riders. You start the meals later, you start the massage much later, you go to bed later, then you have to get up earlier to transfer to the next town. So very poorly laid out selection of cities. Of course, the stages that they did have are absolutely gorgeous. And it's also, it's tough on the staff. The staff has to do all that driving. You know, all the people that follow the race, that bring the race to the fans, also major, major burden to transfer. For example, Monterey to South Lake Tahoe. I mean, that's insane. That's a 5-6 hour drive at best. You add some traffic to that, which in California can happen anytime, any day, anywhere, any single road. So transfers, not good in this year's Tour of California. Hopefully they're better in the future. And the ugly, we're going to take a gander at some video right here. This is from on the bike cameras now that are bringing a whole nother dimension for the fans of cycling to follow the sport. And the cameras mounted on the bicycle of some of the riders capture footage during the day, and then they're shown later. And this is the ugly Peter Kenna crashing hard. See it right here. He goes down. That's the collarbone. Brian Coquard. Oh! Woo! Brian Coquard bounces up and almost wipes out the rest of the field. Was ugly. Could have been a whole lot uglier. Oh my goodness me. Woo! All right, enough with the Tour of California. A great race it was, and that's going to be a long 12 months till it happens again. All right, next up, the Giro d'Italia. The good and the bad personified by the same rider, Steven Kruijswijk of the Lotto Jumbo squad dominating the Giro d'Italia in the first 2 weeks so far, getting a jersey the day before the hill climb time trial and almost winning that stage, putting more time into his rivals, and has absolutely obliterated the men we thought would dominate the Giro d'Italia: Alejandro Valverde, Vincenzo Nibali, Mikel Landa already out of the Giro, Rigoberto Urán many minutes down, suffering from bronchitis. But Valverde, not bad, got a stage win, is in third place in the overall standings. But a couple of riders dominating the Giro: Esteban Chavez of the Orica squad and Stefan Kreuzweg. Vincenzo Nibali losing time all the time, every time the road goes up, which is his specialty. He's one of the best in the business. Stefan Kreuzweg, let me be clear, to take nothing away from Stefan Kreuzweg, leading the Giro d'Italia by 3 minutes over second place and almost 4 minutes over third place, which is Alejandro Valverde, with just a few hard stages to go. Is this a good thing for the Giro d'Italia? Is it good that a relatively unknown rider, and to take nothing away from Kreuzweg, solid professional, in the middle part of his career, so into his best years athletically, but has never demonstrated this type of dominance in a Grand Tour in his whole career? He's been good, like I said before, in the Grand Tours, but nothing at this level. So the Giro d'Italia has been hoping to have a bigger share in the worldwide audience of cycling. Is this a good thing that Stefan Kreuzweg is leading when Vincenzo Nibali is in fourth place, many minutes down, over 4 minutes behind? Valverde is almost 4 minutes behind. Mikel Landa is out of the race. All of the other GC contenders, the bigger names of the sport, a long, long way behind. It's great for Lotto Jumbo. It's great for the Dutch fans, who are some of the most passionate fans in the sport. But it would be much better, in my opinion, if the stars of the sport, the people that propel the popularity of the sport, especially in their countries, like Vincenzo Nibali has been doing in Italy for many years, especially winning the Tour de France in 2014, that he's so many minutes behind. I don't believe there's enough climbing and hard stages left unless Kreuzweg has a major crisis. I mean, heaven forbid there's a crash or bad luck, and hopefully that does not happen. But let's see if Valverde and Nibali can regain some of their composure and at least put up a fight for the pink jersey. At least be a little bit more competitive against Stefan Kreuzweg and Esteban Chavez. Esteban Chavez, a big star in the making. Same with Stefan Kreuzweg. Both under 30 years of age. Both relatively unknown and dominating the Giro d'Italia. And whether or not that makes the Giro more popular with the fans, time will tell. I have my doubts about that. Okay, the bad also in the Giro: horses. Do the bike racers not go through enough already? Oh my goodness. Horses on the course, no bueno. I have had the misfortune to be wiped out by a horse way back in the 1983 Coors Classic. Racing in rural Colorado, in between Grand Junction and McClure Pass, and coming down one of the long roads. And in the car, it seems like pretty flat, straight road, but on a bicycle, there are some steep descents and very tough climbs. Just long, brutal rollers on that course. That race course has never been used since then. And I will never forget that. I have a handy scar right here where I had a puncture wound from horses, not only spooked by the peloton, but also the helicopters covering the race. Just absolutely freaked out horses. The gate wasn't closed, so if you have some horses and some property and a bike race is coming by, please close the gate. Horses bolted into the peloton. Wham! Massive pileup. That was avoided in the Giro. And if it had been a crash caused by the horses, it would have gone from bad to ugly. Okay. You can't keep your horses on a leash, but you can keep them in the corral when the bike races are coming by. Also the bad. Man in a cat suit running next to the peloton is Darwin Adapuma. We can see. The following motorbike, I guess, didn't like his costume. taps him with his front wheel. Now, whether that was on purpose or an inadvertent contact, hard to tell, but it does kind of look like the moto driver had enough skill to just tap the man in the cat suit and whoop, bam! I guess you can't do two things at once: run and cheer for your heroes in the duty time. Listen, if you're going to dress up in a cat suit and run next to the riders, be aware of the people next to you that you're running, the other fans, and the following traffic. Could be other riders, could be the motorbikes, team cars, and I know it's easy to get carried away. And when you see your heroes and you're cheering for them, let's keep a little bit of spatial awareness. Also bad, Firsanov in the hill climb time trial, blocked by the Tinkoff team car. Not sure why the Tinkoff car had to brake suddenly, but of course you can see fans and obstacles everywhere on that climb. And Firsanov only 7 seconds out of third place. And Valverde finished third on the stage. And whether or not that cost Firsanov third or his place where he finished fourth is questionable. But it's not just the time that's lost, but it's also the break in your concentration and your rhythm. And that's very tough to recuperate from. So the team, Gazprom, might have had first and third in the time trial if the Tinkoff car had been a little bit more aware of the rider directly behind them. A little bit of the bad. All right, the ugly. Oh man, this is something that happens, I guess, but this is not something you expect. This is a Coupe de France race, track race. Matt Crampton is the rider, warming up, getting ready for his effort, doing some laps. Rider on the infield, giving the warning. This Crampton, a member of the British cycling Olympic track team. More on that in the Musette Musings. But when we see him warming up, everything looks to be in order. I mean, double discs, skin-tight skin suit, starts winding it up. It's the bell. Oh, going into the back straightaway. Oh, man. Rear wheel delaminates. Woo! Luckily, as it was disintegrating, Matt was able to slow the bike down a little bit and didn't crash at high speed. Could have been a lot worse. Check your equipment. Man, oh man, oh man. Also the ugly coming to us from the Tour of Norway. Dog on the course. Oh, and the inevitable pile up, again in slow motion. Oh man, like, please, let's keep our pets leashed, on the leash. Reports out of the Tour of Norway, the dog was fine, no damage. The peloton, not so lucky. Big pile up, everybody. I've said this many times. Keep your animals under control at the bike races. One thing I was thinking, 1 million cars could go by. That dog would never run out. It's used to that. But the peloton, once in a lifetime, once a year, not nearly frequently enough to understand what will happen if you're a dog and you run out. That particular dog will probably never make the same mistake twice. If he sees a peloton again, will not be chasing the cyclists. But let's hope the rest of the season, everybody's dog is under control, on the leash, and out of the peloton. All right, that's enough for the ugly. And next, it's time for the Musette Musings. Well, back in the headlines for all the wrong reasons. British cycling again making terrible headlines. Man, doesn't get them a whole lot, hopefully, any worse than this. As we recall, the technical director, Shane Sutton, stepped down voluntarily when it was announced that an investigation had been undertaken into sexist and derogatory and discriminatory comments made by Shane Sutton in the past. Jess Varnish was first to come forward. Her comments were taken up and joined by Victoria Pendleton and Nicole Cook, both of whom said that British cycling was rife with sexism and discrimination, and the Paralympic team also, similar comments, some of the riders on the Paralympic team. So Shane Sutton stepped down. He was replaced as technical director by Andy Harrison, and this, I'm going to quote the email that he sent out to the British cycling athletes vying for their Olympic team. You are free to say yes or no to interviews, but how you respond will be a big factor in our ability to support you as the current season unfolds. Whew, man. So let me get this straight. If you are the object of discrimination or sexism, you are not free to speak up, and if you do, you risk losing your Olympic team selection spot. Are you kidding me? This is a threat directed at the athletes to restrict their freedom of speech in order to have a better chance to participate in the Olympics, regardless of what treatment they're getting from the coaching staff. So, what does it say when you ask any athlete to choose between their freedom of speech and racing in the Olympics? It's horrible. And this is not a poorly worded statement. This is not a poorly constructed sentence, which Andy Harrison went on to try to explain himself. This is a threat to the athletes to extend the omerta to the media. Don't say anything, just grin and bear it. Well, I think it's that there's only one appropriate response from British cycling, and that is to immediately fire Andy Harrison. Shane Sutton stepped down. You picked the wrong guy. Try to get somebody else to fill this vital spot going into the Summer Olympics. And no athlete should have to choose between the freedom of speech and racing in the Olympics. So British cycling still not inheriting the kingdom, as it were. All right, a little bit on a lighter side. Stefan Kruijswijk, the leader of the Giro d'Italia, coming under some criticism for the paint scheme of his bicycle. It's common to match whatever jersey you're in the Grand Tours with the equipment that you're racing on. Here's a photo of the Bianchi, the Team Bianchi that Stefan Kruijswijk and his Lotto Jumbo teammates race on, and the pink highlights as a way of honoring his current status as race leader of the Giro d'Italia. Not a lot of support, but I gotta say, I love it. The more pink on your bike, the better. The more pink on your helmet, shoes, bar tape, pedals, whatever you can come up with. I like this paint scheme. It highlights the celeste, one of the iconic colors in all of cycling. Bianchi, the bike company's been around since, I think, the 1890s, maybe 1880s, and celeste is their trademark. I'm not sure if it's a legal trademark, but it's the color, the classic color of the Bianchi bikes, highlighted to perfection by the pink highlights from the team. So I love it. Rumor mill grinding already. Where is Peter Sagan going to wind up this week? It seems as it will be Astana in the blue, in the light blue of Astana. Let's hope that if he does race for Astana, Sagan wins the World Championship road race again. So at least he has a gorgeous jersey. I'm just kidding. If you like the Astana kit, fine and dandy. But 4+ million euros per year for Peter Sagan, worth every penny. But it makes me wonder, will they be renewing with Vincenzo Nibali? If Sagan does join the team, and that would be a pretty big budget. I think that Nibali is close to the same amount that it's rumored Sagan will be paid. Yeah, well, I guess they have a big budget. All right, well, Sagan is available because of a very disturbing trend in cycling, and that's two big teams, two World Tour teams will end their sponsorships as of 2016. The EM squad from Switzerland and, of course, the Tinkoff squad already announcing that they will be done with the sport at the end of the year. A little bit surprising, EM is also dropping out of the sport and is a sponsorship entity. 5 years only. They've only been at the game 5 years and just a couple of years on the World Tour level. And you're talking about 100, maybe more than 100, but at least 100 jobs lost with two World Tour teams dropping out of the sport. It's not inconceivable that one of the pro-continental level teams will move in, a couple of them, to take their spot. That brings the total down to 16 World Tour teams if no new sponsors are found and no new teams are promoted to the World Tour level. That would give race promoters an extra couple of spots to select teams for the big races. So, yeah, as long as there's decent salaries at the other levels of continental and pro-continental levels in the World Tour, it's not the end of the world. Where those riders are going to wind up, I mean, that is a lot of riders, a lot of young pros, a lot of newer professionals, a lot of veterans. Alberto Contador has been flirting with the idea of retirement, and that's not 100% guaranteed. He's starting to make comments about perhaps racing again. So, but for the most part, that's a big loss to the sport, and it's a shame to see those teams go. And it creates this sort of feeding frenzy, whereby the other teams that might want to hire some of the better racers, Rafael Maika, although he's rumored also to be transferring to Astana with Sagan, would theoretically command a pretty big salary if he could find a place to go. If not, he's going to have to take a huge pay cut. And he's a great bike racer and doesn't deserve to have that happen. And I'm wondering if a football team, for example, two football teams in the NFL just decided, no, we're done with football. Good luck. I don't think that's going to happen. The business model is a lot stronger than cycling. And it just goes to show you that to stabilize a sponsorship environment in cycling, the guarantee of jobs, we have a long way to go. Now, hopefully we'll get there. The sport continues to grow in popularity. More people than ever are watching it on TV, and let's hope that translates into a sustainable and stable economic environment for all the riders and all the teams. All right, next up, the tweet of the week. Well, Julian Alaphilippe is also providing us with the tweet of the week. This tweet coming from the edX team doctor, Toon Kruijt. And Alaphilippe, this is the way to celebrate a win. Steering the bike with your feet and hands up in the air. And now, if you plan on winning some big bike races and celebrating like this, I recommend that you practice a lot, pedaling with your steering with your feet before you try to celebrate like this, especially after a big race, because there'll be a lot of cameras around to capture your maybe inglorious moments of crashing and could be quite injurious. So practice this a long way away from anybody with a camera. All right, everybody, that's the Broom Wagon for this week. Thanks for your comments. Thanks for your subscriptions. The subscriptions are piling up. I really appreciate everybody that subscribed. Thumbs up, love those too. And follow me on Twitter and Facebook. Thanks a lot, everybody. It seems as if a team that will not be mentioned went to the front, put the hammer down when Tom Dumoulin from the Giant squad, by the way, not teammates with Cancellara, has just stopped for a nature break. His teammates waited for him, but then the team that has not been mentioned went to the front and put the pressure on, split the group,